Good morning, dear friends. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Friday, the 17th of Adar Rishon, the 18th of February. We're gathered here to study the entire Talmud, one page, one line at a time. Presently, Masechah Shabbos, we are beyond the midway point of chapter 12 of Masechah Shabbos. That's page Kuf Daled Amud Beis. Kuf Daled Amud Aleph. That's 104a. We are generally talking about writing, but that led us to talk about the Aleph Beis, the possible development of the Man Sepach, Mem Nun Sadik, Pei, and Chaf, which have a long and short, a regular and sofit, or in the words of the Gemara, Kfufa and Pshuta. As we know, there's some letters that are distinct when they appear at the end of a word. And we talked about the development of those letters. Were they introduced later on in Jewish history? Were they present on the Luchot? Ultimately, the Gemara gives us an answer which sounds like a hybrid. They had them, they may have been lost, and the Chazal, the Nevi'im, the Tzofim, reintroduced them. It did introduce additional halachic questions like the kashrus of tefillin that maybe preceded the Tzofim, that preceded the prophets, but suffice it to say, both letters have validity and chashivos for the Jewish people. One is not greater than the other. And we then transition to talk about additional esoteric remez teachings that can be gleaned from the Aleph Beis, from their names, from the shapes of the letters, and from their chronology. And so we're going to pick up there. But first, of course, we dedicate our learning for the well-being, health, happiness, nachas for the dear members of our Chabura and their households. I want to mention two dear friends, Leah Basrita and Malka Basrivka for Refuah Shlema. And of course, if anyone else on the Chabura has any prayers or those in need of Refuah Shlema, we certainly channel those wishes and blessings as well.
Rabbi,
yes.
I was thinking, it occurred to me that one letter we slug off here, and yet it's such an honor to write one letter in a Sefer Torah.
Indeed. But one letter alone in a Sefer Torah would not make a Sefer Torah. And it would.
But it's not on Shabbos.
And it's not on Shabbos. Yeah, but Beryl's actually saying
neither would two letters make a Sefer Torah.
Indeed.
Well, I hear three.
Do I hear four?
All righty, let's share the screen and let's check out our Gemara. And there are some machshava, esoteric, agadic ideas here. We'll try to take a glance in the commentaries and we'll hope for the best. So again, we started this Gemara yesterday, but the Rabbanan say to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that youngsters arrived in the Beis Medrash saying brilliant things not heard since the days of Yoshua ben Nun. What's special about Yoshua ben Nun? Well, first of all, he was a devoted student to Moshe Rabbeinu. Second of all, we're told that certain parts in the morning of Moshe Rabbeinu, certain parts of the Torah were forgotten, and many of those parts were able to be reintroduced to the Jewish tradition through the formula of the Torah's exegesis, through the Yud Gimel Midos. And so the ability to extract and glean a hidden message or a coded halacha was something that was very appropriate and associated with the days of Yoshua ben Nun. I think it was Asniel ben Kenaz, who is another great person who is recorded in the book of Yoshua, who is, I believe, and later is listed as one of the Shoftim. I believe he is the one that is credited with his process. But suffice it to say, here is the teaching they talk about. Aleph Beis, Aleph Bina, Aleph Beis, learn Torah. Now, we don't always call Torah Bina, but here, at least according to Rashi, Aleph Bina means study Torah. Gimel Daled. Oh, we did this already. I'm going to just do this really fast. Gimel Daled, Gimel Dalim. Give to the poor. Why is the letter Gimel designed so that the leg of the Gimel is oriented towards the Daled? Because a poor person, why does the Gimel's leg, the second leg, face towards the Daled? To show that a person who is truly kind and gracious should seek out and run after those that are in need. Why is the Daled's leg somewhat oriented towards the Gimel? Because the person who's receiving tzedakah should make it as easy as possible for the giver to give. My time of Mahader Apei the Daled Migimel. I'm sorry, that's what we just read. Oh, my time of Mahader Apei the Daled Migimel. Why is the design of the Daled, not the leg, but it generally faces away from the proper deleting lebitzina, because we should try to give it in a modest, low-key way, so that the poor person, the recipient, should not be ashamed from the support, the assistance that he receives. So a lot of clues in the words in the design and the names of the letters, again, about giving and how to give graciously and thoughtfully. And that is, I'm sorry if you're getting dizzy, I'm just scrolling here through he attaches all of them. This is the Maharsha, Chidushei Agados. Okay. The psukim continue. For some reason, I don't like the way look, Safari is a wonderful resource, but it's I think crowdsourced and they have a lot of work to do, and they're doing so much. But here we have to see how the texts are connected. Anyways, hey Vav. Zesh Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right, Yud K Vav K. So the Hey and the Vav together, that is part of Hashem's name. Rashi gives us an example. We say Ani Vahu, and that Vav and Hey and Vav is considered, according to the Gemara in Sukkah, as a way of saying Hashem's name, or a way of Hashem's name being presented.
Rabbi,
Yes.
what is the Gemara's attitude to these interpretations? Do the rabbis approve of what children were doing and take what they say seriously for the face value, or do they say that one is not allowed to give one's own interpretation without more knowledge?
So the interesting thing, that's a good question, because on one hand, we're calling them kids. So you're asking,
Right.
maybe this is a creative process, but maybe this is not an endorsed process. Well, I'll tell you this, from the fact that the Gemara goes in great length to present their drasha, if you will, that sounds to me like an endorsement. But even more so, it's introduced with a vast compliment. Also, these kids said something that even in the days of Yeshua ben Nun they couldn't say. That sounds like a super endorsement. And
I'm not sure that is an endorsement.
No, I'll tell you. I understand how you could read that differently to say, oh wow, it's like if we would decide to interpret a Mishnah differently, would say, wow, you've come up with an interpretation of the Mishnah even the Gemara didn't consider, and that would be subtle.
No. I mean that you can easily come to an interpretation that wasn't known at the days of Yeshua, but it will be utterly incorrect.
Right.
Because it was incorrect, it wasn't known in the days of Yeshua.
No, I understand what you're saying. One could read it this way, but I don't believe in the Gemara's style and in the culture of the Gemara's language. That is not what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying this in a very complimentary way. As a matter of fact, Tosfos here talks about how these children may have been some of the greatest sages of the time. And although they were, and then other commentaries, which now I don't remember who I saw, maybe it was the Ben Yehoyada quoting earlier works, who says that these were children who, although usually children were not even allowed into the base medrash, their great scholarly prowess had them upgraded. It's actually very interesting. I skimmed through this yesterday, but the Ben Yehoyada quotes, I'm not sure, maybe it's his own. he says how basically, but we know this from the Mishnah, how there was really a just like we might have an elementary school and then a high school equivalent and a college and whatever, so the yeshivas work the same way. And the study hall was not a place where anyone could go. You had to start through the system. You had to graduate preschool and then elementary school and then high school until you're able to finally, undergraduate and your rabbinic degree or whatever exactly it looked like. And so by saying that kids came into the Beis Medrash, it's essentially saying these were wonder children who were so knowledgeable and blew everyone away to the point where they were allowed into the Beis Medrash. If you just want to see, the sages saw how wise they were, and they were capable of studying from the great sages of the time. Then they were allowed in. The Elo Hadardiki Kadishi, the Naktahaim, the Darshu Rimzei Tayrak Elo Yamrishna Shechis Medrash. Basically, they were very great, and they were allowed into the study hall, and in their childhood already, they were spouting wisdom that was beyond belief. So again, I'll say this: the prevailing explanation is that it's extremely complimentary and accepting of their words. Particularly the fact that the Gemara actually chooses to teach it. The Gemara, it's actually kind of rare that the Gemara would go with such a lengthy exposition on the matter. So it certainly, to me at least, sounds like an absolute endorsement. Now, again, this is not a halachic matter. This is a machshava kind of thing. And so it's not like we're changing Jewish practice with this, but yet quite an interesting teaching. And you see this quoted, in later works, certainly in Musar and even more so in Chassidus and Kabbalah, because this really does touch upon that Kabbalah is very into the Aleph Beis and creation and the like, and the forms of the letters, right? So, anyways, let's see what else these kids had to say. So Aleph Beis, learn Torah. Gimel Dalid, be generous, and also the recipient should be gracious and accommodating in receiving, and also there should be the necessary sensitivity towards the recipient, etc. Hey and Vav, this is a representation of Hashem. So just understand what's happening over here is we're not only explaining the meaning of the letters and their sounds, but we're also explaining the chronology of the Aleph Beis to give forth some kind of coherent message. So we're talking about things you should do. Aleph Beis, Gimel Daled. Hey Vav, this represents Hashem's name. And I think Rashi said, no, Rashi doesn't say, but someone says, basically, and if you do the good things that are being presented, Aleph Beis, Gimel Daled, then you have Hashem's name. Well, then, Zayin Ches, Tes Yud, Chaf Lamed. The Gemara says, Vimata Isakain, if a person adheres to the instructions of graciousness and Torah study, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Zayin Zonoischa. Hashem will give sustenance. V'chanoischa, and give you grace, favor. Umeitiv lecha, and will be good to you. Will be good to you. V'noisein lecha Yerusha. Yerusha is the Yud. So you see Zayin Ches, Zon, Chen, Meitiv, sustenance, grace, goodness, Yerusha. V'koisher lecha Keser, Leilam Haba, and a person will even receive reward in the world to come. So if the person does these godly Jewish values, then Hashem will provide in this world and the next. Sounds like good things. And Rashi explains, in case you're wondering, Meitiv lecha, although if you read the word, there's a mem and vav and mem, but the word is toiv, tes. Yerusha is yud. Keser is chaf. Loilam haba is a lamed. A keser loilam haba. It's interesting that there it's two words. Okay, so that's the first story. Now continue. Really, and this was the thing that we just started talking about. You have the mem such and the mem stuma, right? You have the letter mem, you have the mem sofit and the standard mem, if you will. Mamar pasuach, mamar sasum. This is a remez to the fact that there are parts of the Torah that are in the public square, and there are parts of Torah that remain in the remain unpublicized because they are the sodot, the secrets of the Torah. Rashi's words Yesh dvarim shenasan reshus l'darshan. There are parts of the Torah that you have permission and license to expound upon. The yesh she'ata mitzava l'soisman, and there are segments that a person is meant to keep under wraps. Kigoyin ma'aseh merkava, for example, the esoteric secrets of creation, and even more so the secrets of the angels and the supernal worlds. By the way, those that are learning Daf Hayomi, I believe there is a lengthy reference to this in Meseches Chagiga. I think it's around Ches or Tes, but it's been a long time since I learned it. But anyway, so it should be coming up if it hasn't already been up. It probably passed it already. So that's what Mem Sucha, Mem Stuma. There are things that everyone should study. The things that are meant to be under wraps. Maimer Psuach, Maimer Sasa. Nun Kefufa, you have the bent nun. Why are we calling it a nun kefufa, a bent nun? Because if you think about it, the difference between a nun and a nun sofit, in Yiddish, a line nun, is simply if the bottom is bent downwards or if the hinge slides up. So the nun kefufa means it's bent, and the nun pshuta means it's straight. So why is there what is the meaning of a nun kefufa, a nun pshuta? Nemon kafuf, nemon pashut. Rashi, Adam kasher tzarchli is kafaf anav, a person, a kosher person, a person who really wants to follow in godly values should be humble and, so to speak, humble and bent over, not all haughty. The soifa aliyah is pasha v'zakav loylam haba, but in the long run, this will come with great kavod and honor.
Rabbi,
Yes.
isn't this sort of contrary that people should study Lishmo, not look for rewards? And this is the exact opposite.
We are not saying that you should learn or do any of these things for these values. We are making a statement that says that a person who's truly humble is ultimately blessed. A person that studies Torah and lives a godly life, ultimately it will work out for them. Now, I know someone's going to ask, hey, hang on, why are there good people who suffer? I know, good question. Let's put that on the side for now.
Forever.
So I don't think we're saying, do be good because there are rewards, but we are saying that there are good things that happen to good people. And sometimes it happens. Nemon. So here, just while we're at it, Ben Yehuda says we're calling a tzaddik, a good person, Nemon. Why? Because we're talking about his trustworthiness, his dependability to Hashem, to Jewish values. All right, let's continue. Samachayin. Smoichanim. Help out the poor. Now the Gemara wants to give an alternate interpretation. Smoichanim. Support the needy, the poor. Lishnachrina, alternatively, they taught simonim asay b'Torah. Make simonim. Simonim asay. Make mnemonics. Make acronyms to help review the Torah. Rashi shall say their shmois. The Tana Aymar Begirsa the Letishka Chachanim Kugan Elisha B'Shas. Many times you'll notice the Talmud gives us an interesting acronym, a bunch of random aleph bays, and we'll always wonder, hey, what's this about? And then we'll say, oh, because we're about to say 7 teachings from Rabbi X, and so we made an acronym to help us remember. So this is one of the formulas that were employed to preserve the Torah, particularly when it was all an oral effort. So Samachayin, Simanim Asay, do things to help preserve the Torah. Pay kefufa, pay pshota. What about the pay? The pay also, you have a long pay and a bent pay. The foot of the pay is either bent downwards or upwards. Again, the regular pay and the long pay teaches us pe pasuach, pe sasu. There are times that we should close our mouth and times that we should speak up. And I only listened to like a minute or two, but there was a session on combating abuse, sexual abuse, And one of the biggest problems that the Jewish and Haredi, the Frum community experiences is that we have a high value of not speaking Lashon Hara. And some people are so trained to not speak poorly of another person that they might even avoid addressing, hearing, or dealing with a perpetrator of the most terrible, harmful crimes. And so I forget who said it now, one of the great poskim of the pre-war era, who says, quoting the Gemara, but I think it's connected to this, that we're very concerned about Lashon Hara, but there are no, I don't remember the exact, it was a very well stated thing, but the idea, of course, is that much more terrible than Lashon Hara would be to stand on the blood of one's fellow and not speak up. Oh, even worse than speaking when meant not to speak is the silence when we need to speak up. And the point, of course, is sometimes you have to be very mindful of your words and not speak Lashon Hara. But if it comes to saving another person's life and getting a person that is a danger off the street, then is a time to speak up. So again, I'm sorry, I bungled the beauty of the statement, but the point is, pe pasuach, pe sasum. Sometimes you have to keep your mouth closed, but you have to know, as important, when it is necessary to speak up. Tzaddik kefufa, tzaddik pshuta. You also have a tzaddik, that is the regular tzaddik and the long tzaddik. Tzaddik kafuf, tzaddik pashat. Similar idea. Excuse me. Oh, hainu nemak. You have the same thing. A tzaddik that is humble, that tzaddik eventually prevails. I believe that's going to be the pshat here. Gemara says, hainu neman kafuf, hainu neman pashat. We already said this. We are adding the fact that there may be an additional bending, humility. Mikan shenitna haTorah b'mnoid roish. From here we see that the Torah is given through great humility. I'm not sure if this is a kind of like the teaching that you say kol habereach min hakavod. Person seeks honor, the honor runs away from them. The person that runs away from kavod chases them. And you have the guy who complained that he tries really hard to run away from kavod, but the kavod yet doesn't follow him. And he was told it's because he keeps on turning around to look to see his pursuer. But anyways, here.
I tell you, usually I'm a little surprised because usually Menod Rosh is just a head nod. It was like an after effect, like an after effect. Giving the Torah would denote more seriousness than just an afterthought or a nod.
No, because the Talmud isn't translating Menod Rosh the way we use it in contemporary Hebrew. Certainly, let's look at Rabbi Steinsaltz's here. Is given in an atmosphere of gravity. That's what he describes, although this isn't a literal pshat, but Menod Rosh means a great trembling and seriousness. The Art Scroll translates it trembling of the head, Menod Rosh. So you in modern Hebrew you might say a bending of the head, but it means here trembling and humility. Kuf, Kadosh, Reish, Rasha. So now we're getting to the end of the Aleph base. And we have a strange juxtaposition of the Kuf and the Reish, particularly because the drasha that's being expounded and adopted by the Gemara here is Kuf, means a good person or a holy person. Reish is a Rasha. You would think that you don't want the Rasha and the Kadosh to be neighbors. This is reminiscent of the question about the question in the Haggadah, although you see eventually it makes an opposite point. Usually we say, right, that why does the Chacham and the Rasha sit next to each other so that the Chacham can be a good influence on the Rasha? Conversely, it's to teach us that the Rasha is not a foolish person. The Rasha is wicked but very smart. So we shouldn't discount his intelligence. Anyways, here, my time on Mahader Ape the Kuf Miresh. Why is it that the design of the Kuf is faced away from the Reish? Is that so? I'm trying to visualize how that might work. Lishna de ma'al Yahu sha'achar of shel reish legabe hakuf. Shekos Baruch Hu. All right, we'll take it as it comes, and we'll try to understand it. Why is it that the face of the kuf is turned away from the reish? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem is, so to speak, saying, "Ein ani yachol listakal b'Rasha." I cannot look at a Russia. My time of Mahadir Tagi the kuf legabe reish. But if that's the so, why is the leg of the kuf towards the reish? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem is telling the Russia, "Im chayzer boy ani koshel lecha kesher kamaisi." If you do teshuvah, I will treat you. Hold on. I will tie a crown for him like my own. Hashem is saying that if the Russia does the teshuvah, he'll accept him wholeheartedly. The other Belial. So Rashi Taga the Kuf Kimin Zayin Shoyzim B'Soife Shel Gad Kuf. Carry the Kuf Talia. Let's take a look at no, these are not. Here, let's see if I can open this in its own page. All right, here we go. It goes through some of the nuanced differences between the different, but generally we'll see the kuf and the reish are similar enough. Kuf, reish. So we said that this could look a little bit like a zayin. And so the kuf, that is somewhat towards the reish, but this part is a little bit back from the reish. So we're saying that Kaddish and Russia, Hashem and the Russia need to keep their distance, but Hashem is extending a lifeline, an opportunity to do teshuvah. All right, we'll leave it at that for now.
So do these letters have Kabbalistic connotations?
What, these letters here?
Yeah, the way they're set up, the way they're written, do Kabbalists read into?
No, what's happening here is basically there are a few different traditions in the nuanced design of the letters. And so here we have the letters. Again, I'm just found this on the internet, so but these are generally the letters the way they are in the Beis Yosef, which is the standard Ashkenazic style of Ksav. This is the general Sephardic style of the Ksav down here. Then here are some letters that the Arizal had.
I understand that, I see that. But do Kabbalists read into the different styles of the letters, any Kabbalistic?
You're saying, do Kabbalists explain the distinction between the different ways of designing an individual letter?
Right. Do they have any Masorah, Kabbalistic Masorah?
Yes. So I don't know, but first of all, yes, it's not my specialty. What I can tell you is that the Arizal had some very specific design tweaks that reflected.
Because I see here also the Rab Chaim Vital. So Rab Chaim Vital was a
Where do you see that?
Person. Right under the Dada Ari HaKadosh, if you look under the asterisk, keep going in the middle, Rab Chaim Vital. So
no, all he's saying is that there's a machloket about the Zayin and the tests.
I understand, but if he's involved in it too, I'm just.
We don't even need Chaim Vital. We already have the Arizal who gave an opinion and has distinct style of writing the Aleph base. So we can already presume that there's a Kabbalistic idea. So yeah, if you look carefully, there's like very nuanced differences, and those are I believe, somewhat reflective of Kabbalistic ideas. Interestingly enough, one of the big debates are about the ches. If you look carefully, each of the cheses, not only ches, but each of the cheses have a different. Is ches two zayins? Is it a vav and a zayin? For example, and there's whatever. There's a lot more, but there you have it. Look at the tzaddik as well. You see here the tzaddik. So the yud like part of the tzaddik here is a backwards yud, whereas in the standard Ashkenaz style, it is a forward-facing yud. And then if you look at the Sephardic tzaddik here, and again, I don't have enough of a background of the fonts to really go beyond what we can see here, but you can see here it's also backwards facing. So there's a lot of different nuanced opinions on the design of the letters, and there certainly is some Kabbalistic influence on some of the styles of the letters.
Rabbi,
Beryl? Yes.
I'm just wondering why do we have to go to such a, call it esoteric level of looking at letters for principles that are major principles of the Torah in 20 different places? Hashem will forgive, Hashem will reward. We have to look at which way a letter is pointing to learn that.
I'm confused. I don't understand your question. Oh, we're not saying that these ideas are only known from the Aleph base. These kids were saying that the Aleph base too have a message to convey beyond simply being the alphabet. I don't think we're saying this is the only way we would know these things. I think we could pretty strongly say that that is not the case. What I actually stopped over here and I got distracted was I was trying to understand how Rashi describes the kuf. I'm going to look at here. Let's just look at, because again, he says, why is the leg of the kuf? Hold on. Sorry. Why is the face of the kuf turned away from the resh? Okay, I struggle to understand the nuance exactly how that is, because going back to these letters, what is the face of the kuf? I would have thought it would be this part of the letter, which is towards the resh. So I imagine we must conclude that this is the face. And then when he says the zayin, I'm sorry, he says the tag of the kuf. So the tag, of course, is the little, right? Yeah. So I guess when he says it's towards the resh, he means that it's on the left side of the letter, closer to the resh. And that's Hashem saying, here, I've got a lifeline to give you. And then he asks, why is the leg of the kuf suspended? Well, how else would you like it to be? Well, I guess now that we know a kuf is a suspended leg, we can't imagine it any other way. But why is the kuf designed as such? To tell us that Hashem is leaving an opening for the resh to climb back to Hashem. And I don't remember if now, maybe I skipped that part when I was reading the Gemara. So let's do it again. On my time, I carry the kuf talia. Why is the leg of the kuf suspended? Why is it not attached to the mainland of the kuf? The Hadar Bay, Layel, it's an opening, it's a doorway where Hashem accepts back the Rasha to go in through that opening. Now I know some Chacham is going to say then if it was attached, then the Rasha can go through the bottom. But the point is that there's an available opening, a doorway of acceptance for the Rasha. All right, we're not quite done yet. Interesting here. The Rashba says, "Mikan shesarch laharchik haregel min hagag kazev v'loy dava," because I assume the Rashba had originally a picture in his work. But the point is that from here we can infer halachically how the design of the kuf ought to be. And again, that's something that we already assume to be obvious. Oh, I'm sorry. See, I guess I remember the Gemara and I forgot that it was in the Gemara. But Layel B'hach, you could always enter the other entrance. Yaakov tachas raglei kuf yachin is pesach shal yamin. Even if the kuf was attached on top, there's another entrance. So what does that mean? So the Gemara explains with Rish Lakish. This is consistent with what Rish Lakish taught. Rish Lakish, as Rish Lakish taught, if a person is a scorner, for scorners, he scorns them. But for Anavim, humble people, they receive grace. What it means to say is, a person is looking to get into trouble, a person is looking to become impure, unholy, he'll find the opportunity. We make it the opportunity available to him. But if a person that seeks to become pure, a person that seeks to come back on track, so he'll find assistance in that direction as well. Rashi, mechinim loy pesach. A person has a doorway ready to accept a person. I think we say in English, what's the English saying? Anyways, long story short, a person will find an opportunity to pursue whatever it is that he seeks to do. All right, this is an interesting. All right, but not for now. If we have an extra minute, remind me. We'll go back and look at this interesting teaching about Habalas Latame and Habalas Tahir connected to the Aleph base. But let's only come back to this. Shin, Sheker, Tav, MS, and this is probably one of the better known teachings that are from this Gemara. That Shin stands for Sheker, not this part, the next part. Shin stands for Sheker. And Tav stands for emes. My taima, sheker mekarva milei. Why is it that with sheker, it's close, the shin that represents sheker is close to the other letters that spell the word sheker? Because look at the aleph beis. Shin, kuf, and resh are adjacent to sheker. So if you want to write sheker, you only need to go back to the two words next to it and you'll already find the word sheker. Whereas Taf, which stands for emes, you have to go and search throughout the aleph base, aleph, mem, Taf.
But the emes, the aleph, it goes from the beginning to the middle to the end. So the emes covers the whole gamut.
Oh, so this is what I meant when I said that there's certain teachings in this Gemara that are well known. I'm referring to that beautiful shot that you just alluded to, but let's just see the question again. My time was sheker mekarva milei.
The letters don't stand by themselves there.
Hold on. Let's see the Gemara. Let's see. Ice krayvais, shlashton krayvais, kisidron shar alpha base. In the order of the aleph base, the words of sheker are next to each other. MS. Oh. Marchakan mili, zubet chilas aleph base, zubet emsav, zubet site. You couldn't spread out more distantly the letters of MS. Why? Shikra shchiach. This is a tragic commentary on reality. Shikra shchiach. It's easy to find. Come in. It is easy to find falsehood. Falsehood is common. Kushta lo shchiach. Truth. Truthfulness is very rare. Give me 1 second. Someone's at the door. Middle of the year, so middle of the class. Tonight, 6 o'clock, tomorrow, 8 or 10.
This stuff requires a great leap of faith. I mean, the shin could stand for anything.
The shin could stand for anything, but we are presenting a specific doctrine taught by these youngsters, embraced and endorsed by the Gemara, where shin stands for sheker. I thought you would ask, why does the Taf stand for emes? Because it only ends with the Taf, doesn't start with it. I'm sorry, MS ends with the Taf, doesn't start with it. So I see why sheker stands for shin. I don't see why Taf stands for MS.
I think the fact that they identify them as young students gives us a clue.
I don't know why we're being so discriminatory against these wise young.
I find it a bit childish, sorry.
All right. All right. Let's see something interesting. My question is asked. Shin Sheker Tov Emes. Why do you think it's childish? Because Aleph Beis are childish?
No, just playing this game, you could play it ad infinitum. Every letter could stand for hundreds of words. I'm
A
sure
letter-
if somebody took the time, he would design something the exact opposite.
Look, we have on the mezuzah in the front, we have the letter shin. It doesn't stand for sheker, it stands for shaddai.
Nachon.
And
So-
probably 100 other things.
So let's take a look. Let's take a look. Shin Sheker Tov Emes. Yesh la'achshay, Shlomo Remez Emes Ba'is Achron. Why do we say that Tov is represented by its last letter? Why didn't they say Aleph stands for Emes? So it's simple. A misinformation. No, I'm sorry for even saying that. Saying something that's not truthful. The first mistruth, the first untruth, it's already sheker. The moment a person deviates from the truth, it's false. But MS, you're not certain that what's being said is entirely true until it's all been said. Because it's possible to be 99% MS, but 1% not true, it's not MS. So the only time that we have confirmation that something is true is when you get to the last letter. So therefore, MS is represented by the Tov. Take it or leave it, but I think it's a nice drusha, a nice drush. And then there's the famous teaching that Mark pointed out, which is, of course, Aleph, Mem, Saf, beginning, middle, and end. But let's finish this Gemara before we. So, anyways, truth is rare, falsehood is common. Umaytaima shikra achada karekoi. Why is it? Shikra achada karekoi. The word sheker stands only on one leg. Let's go back to our letters for a second.
That's what I said.
Sheker.
Yeah.
Each only has 1 point, one leg.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Shit.
it.
The shin has 1 point. The resh has 1 point. And the kuf, I don't know which point we're talking about, but it only has one bottom, 1 point. However, MS, milavan labone. Let's see how he translates it.
No blog.
It stands like bricks. Kush l'kaye, shikra l'kaye. Truth endures, falsehood falls apart. Rashi, mushchavin tachtea oisiyos kimin levena the aleph hariyesh la beis raglaim. Aleph has 2 legs. Umoishva toiv, regel sheni rachav. Basically, Aleph has two points, 2 legs. Mem has 2 legs. Saf has 2 legs. MS stands. Sheker doesn't stand. That is the significance not only of the sounds and the chronology of the letters, but also the design of the letters. Hold on 1 second. And here he quotes what Mark was saying. I thought it was in the Gemara, but maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it's not in this Gemara. Aleph Mem Saf, to remind us that MS Yochel L'Kayim Kol HaTorah Kula, the whole Torah is sustained by MS. MS is consistency, so you have to be throughout the whole Aleph phase. That is the idea of Aleph Aleph. Interesting. Here's the Rashba once again. The Rashba, I think, more than the other commentaries, at least that Safaria provides for us, is constantly reading between the lines of this Agadic teaching to infer the ideal halachic designs of the letters. So for those of you that are disturbed by this childish teaching, understand that maybe you are following the viewpoint of the Rashba, where it's not so childish, because maybe you do or don't like the drasha, but you could read between the lines and infer the design of certain letters, and that itself is a snapshot in time, frozen and recorded about certain diukim and nuances in the letter design. And he says, "Mikan shetzarich lasois soif hashin chad kazev v'leirachav kazen." As you know, there are varying opinions about how to design a shin, and you might even observe a distinction between the way the shin is designed over here and the way the shin is designed over here and over here, where here the shin, although it's still on a slight slant, seems to have a flat bottom. And it sounds to me, although I don't know what the Rashba's Ksav looks like, but it sounds like he is rejecting this design and preferring one of these designs, and he's inferring that from this statement of the Dardaki who were recorded in the Gemara. So there is a halachic component here as well.
Let me ask you a question. If a sofer, by mistake, if he writes a sefer Nusach Ashkenaz and gets a letter in that's Nusach Hari or Nusach Sfarad, does that cause an issue?
I do not believe so, unless the letter cannot be read as the specific letter. In other words, there are certain baseline criteria for a letter to be kosher, and then there's design features and flair and style. But as long as it has the halachic criteria, it is kosher. But again, a disclaimer: I'm not a sofer, and this is not halacha l'maisa, but to my knowledge, that would be fine. And
Well, the shin is the shin, because you look at the tefillin, the shin on the tefillin is very pointed.
so if you look at the shin on the tefillin, look at the tefillin, and you'll notice who is Sephardic. Well, no, you won't know who is Sephardic by looking at the tefillin, but you'll know if the tefillin are Sephardic tefillin, or Ashkenaz tefillin, or Chabad tefillin. Let's actually Google this for fun. Sepharad tefillin. And let's see if we can get an image. Oh, I looked at the wrong pictures. I'm sorry. Bear with me a moment. Here. This is a Sephardic tefillin. You see that shin?
Actually, got
That's well, no, one side is 3 and one side is 4. But that shin is not the shin you were talking about, Mark, right? That is a Sephardic.
Pointed.
It's pointed, but not the way you meant. That's not how your tefillin look, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Well, okay. See, I searched Sephardic tefillin, so you're only going to see with the Sephardic shin. But now let's.
You mean that Mizrahi, not necessarily.
I mean Mizrach, yeah. Let's now do this. Tefillin shel Rosh. Here, you see that shin?
It's flat, yeah.
That's Fard, right? What about this shin?
That's pointed, yeah. That's what
That's
we have.
pointed. And let's look for one more. All right, now let's do one more thing. Let's put Chabad. Let's see if there's any distinction in the design of the shin there.
Chabad is different, huh?
No. I'm just having fun here.
I
Chabad
saw the shin, by the way, I saw the shin, 4 arms coming up instead of 3.
Hold on. Bear with me
Yeah,
one.
4 there.
I'm sorry, folks. Once we're doing this, we should do it right. Real fast.
That's cheap. That's cheap. 5. Wow.
How come
Here,
the
so-
shin has 4 arms coming out instead of only 3?
Hold on.
That's
All right. Oh. Hold on. I have to change my virtual background now. All right, there we go.
Yeah.
This is a pair of tefillin. You see that 3? Now you see 4. I'm not a magician. As one side is 3, one side is 4. And as you can see, the shin is supremely pointy in this design. But again, I want to be very clear here. My point here is not, God forbid, to disparage the Sephardic design. There are different minhagim, different nuances in how to design the letters, and people should follow their family tradition and their minhag. Hold on, what just happened here? Okay. There we go. But there you have it. So at least my whole point here was to say that it sounds like the Rashba is telling us to follow the Shin, I think, of Ashkenaz. Just do one more thing while we're at it.
The knot is very different. Yeah.
The knots are different. There are many distinctions, but here, I just want to, here we go. Mark, does this look familiar? Oh, we're still loading. Here, so look, oh, okay, here. On this website, they're going to show us, there's the Ashkenaz base Yosef kind of shin on its tefillin. There's they're calling it here the Hasidic Arizal shin. Then you have the Sephardic shin. There's some more variations, but that is approximately the gist of it. And actually, if you look carefully, oh, I don't even know what you can see anymore. If you can see my tefillin, I don't know if you can see me because I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah.
But if you look, you see how the middle line is a little bit to the side. And so that's going to reflect more of the Arizal style than the Ashkenaz. And now you'll understand why there are some nuanced distinctions between the different tefillin. All of them are kosher, kulam ahuvim, kulam brurim. These are all authentic, appropriate ways to observe Torah mitzvot. And people should adhere to their tradition. But all that was just to show you how it sounds like the Rashba is inferring this style from the Mishnah. Now, what I've told you is somewhat simplistic. Certainly, there's a whole lot more on the topic of the design of the Aleph base, but I just wanted to show you that. Now, we're going to start, but not get through it. The Gemara is not done talking about the Aleph base. Now we're going to introduce. The Gemara is going to introduce to us something else, a code. A code. So if anybody enjoys hitting codes, secret codes, well, the Gemara is now going to teach us another formula, which is apparently an authentic, ancient, long-standing code called At Bash. Who here is familiar with At Bash? So At Bash. Oh, so we have some folks.
You did the Chagim that way.
I'm sorry, what?
With the
I
Chagim.
said I'm familiar with that Bash.
So what is At Bash? Menachem?
Well, you have one word starts with the first letter with the Aleph, and the next one is with the Taf, with the last letter. The other one was the Bet, the second letter, and the other one is with the second from the last, the Shin. And then you have the Gimel, and the third one from the end.
So if you
And
want to
there are a lot
write,
of- there are a lot of Pizmonim that are written in that format of Ad Bash.
so I'm gonna take it a step further. At Bash Gar is a
Gar.
code. So let's say I want to write to you.
That's not start that. And so on. Yeah.
What's the next one? Daled Kuf.
Like,
So let's say I want to write Sheker. So I could write Sheker, or I could write Beis Daled Gimel. So you exchange. It's a code where you exchange each letter. And it's a code that was used throughout Jewish history. People wanted to keep something nominally private so you could use At Bash. There's actually a very interesting story that maybe you saw. A girl wrote a letter to the Rebbe, but she didn't want her parents to understand what she's writing. And so she wrote a line on the bottom. I think it was using At Bash. And the Rebbe responded in the letter to her an answer using the same code. You saw that?
interesting.
Let's see if we can find the letter. Just here. This is the letter. Take a look. No, it's not the letter. Nichtav b'tzido. Here we go. The girl wrote, how do I open this in its own? I want to just see the letter now. Check this out. The girl wrote, Shlomit Bat Freda wrote a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And in it, from Israel, she wrote that she's gonna have a bas mitzvah. She wants a bracha. She wrote, "I want Mashiach now." Okay, that's cute. Bracha shadatzliach b'chol ma shani oseh lahavi yagil. Anyways, whatever she wrote. And then at the bottom she wrote, Aleph Kuf Yud Shin Tes. What is she writing? So she is writing. I don't have the whole decoding over here. What? But she is asking for Tes.
No,
Anyways, I don't know. She was asking for. What was she asking for? The article, I think, uncoded it. She wrote Todala Bracha. Todala Bracha. And the Rebbe wrote back on the bottom of the letter. He sent a standard letter of blessings for a bas mitzvah. Oh no, I'm sorry. She gave the Rebbe a blessing. I think she blessed the Rebbe to have kids, or something like that. Yeah, I can't. Anyway, she wrote to the Rebbe whatever she wrote. On the bottom, the Rebbe wrote in the same code back, Shin Hey Gimel Dalid, Toda Al HaBracha. So I forgot what her blessing was, but she wrote an anonymous bracha in a code, and the Rebbe answered her back in the same code. And they have actually, see this. This is the secretary's draft, and the Rebbe in his handwritten instructions told them to use this code. And interestingly enough, there are a few different codes that were used, and it looks like initially the Rebbe used a different code, and then he put this code, Toda Al HaBracha. But again, I can't decode what this girl wrote. Oh, because it wasn't. I'm sorry. This is not Atbash. I'm sorry. This is one letter off. So Toda would be Shin Hey. If that's the case, she wrote Bracha, right? Beis, Reish, Chaf, Birchati, Le Rebbe. Let's see, what is it? She.
that's Kuf, right? Kuf Yud. Vav. Lamed. Dalid. Vav.
The Rebbe, whatever. She wrote basically that the Rebbe should have banim. Anyways, and so in response, she got a blessing back. So it's a different code. I'm sorry, but very interesting. So the Gemara now, and again, we're over time, so we're going to continue on Monday. I think we're still off for Sundays until I can rearrange my Sunday schedule. So again, we're going to resume Monday. But the Gemara is now going to talk about Atbash, and we're going to have similar Agadic values and ideas gleaned from the formula of Atbash. And then the Gemara is going to introduce us to a third code, and I think with that, it's over. So, but anyways, I hope you found today's discussion enlightening, and I want to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and hoping for a lot of good health and happiness. And for those that are watching in the future, I hope you can figure out how to fast forward through the gaps of dead air while I was looking for the tefillin and the like. But anyways, you guys, I'm sorry, you couldn't predict it, so there's nothing you can do. But thank you all for putting up with it today. Again, wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos. And should you so desire, as soon as we end this meeting, Rabbi Shalom will resume on this very link, teaching today's Chumash. So thank you all very much. Have a good Shabbos. And again, hope to see everybody Monday.